firstly to mobility. We are going to focus on lower body this evening. We're going to be on the floor the whole time. Sometimes we do some standing moves, but today we're going to be down on the floor the whole time. We're going to start with just a little bit of easy ankle rolling. You could absolutely sit in a chair if you wanted to. You don't have to be on the floor if you don't want to. And just whichever foot you want to begin with, just some easy rolling. Just kind of bringing some awareness into our body, into the lower body. Maybe wiggle your toes, kind of point and flex your toes a little bit. Good. Nice. And then we'll switch, a little easy rolling of the other foot, both ways. Right? We're not really getting into deep, controlled articular rotations yet. We're just warming up. If sitting on the floor does not feel good to you, feel free to be seated in a chair. And then a little bend and straighten of the toes. Bend and straighten of the toes. Good. Nice, right there. All right, we're gonna get a little more complex in our movement. So come back to your first foot. I want you to think of evert and invert. So we're kind of rolling out onto our pinky toe and rolling in on to our big toe. My heel's just staying on the ground. So I'm just kind of lifting the foot, rolling in and out. That might be a little more sensitive into the ankle. We're not trying to push ourselves to the point of, pain. I like to call it sensation scale, 0 to 10. Don't press so hard that you're like, ooh, that's like a 6 or a 7. 3 or 4 in sensation. Nice. Right there. And then the other foot, evert and invert. So again, I'm just keeping my heel on the ground. We're just gonna work our way up. We're starting with our ankles, and then we'll move up eventually to our hips. And we're starting a little lighter. We'll work our way in to bigger movement. All right, a few more. Now just kind of noticing one foot was way more sensitive to me than the other foot, right? You might notice that as well. A little invert, evert. Good. Right there. All right, let's go back to our first foot. You can lift that foot up, get some point and some flex. So plantar flexion as we point down, dorsiflexion as we bring it up. Down and up, down and up. And we're gonna get a little internal, external rotation. This is really where I want you to tune in a little bit more, because I don't want us coming all the way up into the internal, external rotation of the knee yet. So I want you to kind of place a hand on your lower shin, kind of right above the ankle, and then on your knee. So we're gonna externally rotate and internally rotate. But you can see I'm not going very far. I don't want to feel this whole upper shin turn out. So this is external rotation of the knee joint. This is internal rotation of the knee joint. I want to hold the knee joint steady. I just want to work my internal, external rotation of my ankle. So I'm holding, a little bit firmly on my lower shin, just above my ankle. And you're going to really feel work come into the ankle. Whereas if I'm going here, there's less concentration in the ankle. So I want to really start to work that internal, external range of motion just in the ankle. And then we're going to kind of put all three of these pieces together. So we have the eversion, inversion, plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, external, internal rotation. So we're going to use that to make full ankle cars. So we dorsiflex, we externally rotate, we kind of evert as we point down, plantar flexion, invert, internal, right, and back up, and then take that the reverse direction. Now, if you're like me, my ankle gets really tired really fast, which means I need to be doing this more. So this is that part of class that's not stretching. It is mobility. We are working these ankle cars slowly each way, trying to work through that full range of motion. If you need to take a break, take a break. Otherwise, we're going to try to go one more time each way. Ah, rub your ankle out a little bit. Woo! That's some ankle work right there. Yeah. Massage up your shin, your calf some. All right, we're gonna do that on the other foot. So we've already done the inversion, eversion, right? We're gonna do point and flex. So point, or they're really kind of both flexion, right? Dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. You got it. You just the dorsi and plantar right now. Full range of motion, slowly, so we can see how far we can go. Nice. You will probably feel some activation of your anterior tibialis, chin muscle. Good. Now we're going to do the inversion or internal rotation and external rotation. So this is the one where I'm going to really kind of hold my knee, hold above my ankle, because I want to just work. Oh, I don't have good range of motion in this one at all. I want to just work the internal, external rotation of the ankle. Now, if you're finding this pretty intense, right, you probably have some tightness in your ankle, and this is something that we need to work on. Many of us do, because we don't really stop to break down the ankle joint so much. This one is definitely less range of motion for me than my other one. Again, I'm trying not to move up at the knee, right? That's moving my whole knee joint, and then this would be moving my whole hip joint. I'm trying to stay just in that ankle joint. A couple of more times. And then we'll put all those pieces together for our ankle cars. So I like to lift it up just so I have room to plantar flex. So we'll plantar flex, internal rotation, right? You get that kind of inversion as you come up and down, and then we go back around. Now you might get quite a bit, a little cracking in your knee, or not your knee, your ankle. That is fairly common as long as there's not like excessive pain going on. It's just when those ligaments are moving around in the joints, we get little, kind of air bubbles in there. We get a little bit of that creaking and cracking. Now there might be sensation, right? I don't want any sharp type of pains, but some like, ooh, I'm working my ankle and I never work my ankle type pain. That's pretty common. Good, maybe one more time. Each way, nice and slowly. And release. You can rub that ankle out a little bit there. Nice. All right. Our ankles are nice and warm. We're going to come back to a little bit of pails and rails in a bit, but let's move into some mobility of the knee. We're going to start just manually. I want you to take your fingers just right on your kneecap. Just move that kneecap up and down and side to side. Now you might find, again, it could be pretty stuck in there. That's okay. Don't force anything. Don't really push it, but that's just kind of giving you a little bit of feedback that those ligaments might be pretty tight in there. And so we want to work some mobility. And you can actually do both kneecaps at the same time. But our kneecap really should kind of float. So you should get a little back and forth, side to side, even kind of clockwise and counterclockwise type movement. Nice. And then we'll go a little bit bigger. So choosing one leg. Now, earlier we externally and internally rotated the ankle, right? And I said I don't want to bring it all the way up to the knee. Now we want to bring it up to the knee. So if you want to kind of brace one arm under, you don't have to. But I like to place one hand on the knee with one or two fingers just below that kneecap so you can really feel your tibia come up underneath the knee, and that's that rotation. So we're going to rotate out and rotate in. And now I want you to really feel that tibia coming in and out. Your ankle's going, but you might notice here it's not as intense on your ankle because the ankle's just going because it's connected, right? If we move the tibia, the ankle's gonna go. We can't move the tibia without the ankle going, but the rotation is right under here. And then we're gonna add the full cars coming up in a moment. So we internal, external rotate. The other movement is extension and flexion, extension and flexion. So we put that together for our cars. So we externally rotate, we extend, internally rotate, and flex. And we can take that the other direction. And then externally rotate and flex. So we often think about our knee as extending and flexing, but our knee also internally and externally rotates. And that's a lot of times where we end up getting some damage playing sports, those lateral movements, knee not strong enough, and we get that side, buckle to the side, and we end up with an injury. Nice. Good. And then we'll switch and do the other leg. All right, so same thing, internal, external at the knee joint. So these are kind of the cars, the movement. We're breaking the cars down into pieces. This is just the good range of motion, mobility, and then the way that we increase our mobility through the range of motion is adding in some pails and rails in a bit, and that's where we'll add that isometric contraction at these joints. Good, and then we can flex and extend. And it didn't really matter if you're pointed or flexed right now. Naturally, your foot's gonna probably flex when we do the internal, external. And then let's put that together. We internal, we extend, external, try not to move at the hip, just at that knee, and flex. This is my knee that gives me issues sometimes. I might feel that more in a tighter knee. Just, anywhere, cars, I usually do, 3 to 5 rounds. It's kind of whatever you're feeling. If it feels good, do a few extras. Pails and rails, I usually go to like 3 to 8, 3 to 10. If I really need to work a specific joint, might do several sets. And remember, if sitting on the floor doesn't feel good to you, you can do absolutely all of this right here from a chair. Nice. Good, and then give that a little break. All right, so we're gonna go into pails and rails of our knee and our ankle joints, and then we'll move up to hips after that. Let's start with our knee joints just because we just worked them. And this is where we're gonna do some of that lateral type movement. You're gonna be your own resistance. So if you place, we do our left leg first, just for the purposes of like the video. I know it like flips me around and everything. So we're gonna place our hand on the outer side of the knee. I want you to push your knee into your hand, but your hand back into the knee. That's our pails, right? And then just kind of soften it. Press and soften, press and soften. So we're just building some of that strength of getting knocked to the side. Good. Now press in, hold. I don't want you to move at the hip. I don't want you to move at the ankle. I want you to think of that action though, isometric. The knee is not really gonna move, but we kind of activate as if we're gonna pull the knee away from the hand. And you're gonna kind of feel that strength come through the whole leg, a lot up into your hip, kind of warming up that hip there. Good, let's go the other way. So now we're gonna actively press in and release, actively press in and release, good. Now all of this, when we get up to the hips, the reason we're doing this first is because when we get into the hips, some of the moves we do are gonna involve the knee and the ankle as well. All right, press in and then take that action of you're gonna pull it away, but don't really pull it away, right? That's kind of that rails, that regressive contraction. You just kind of feel that outer thigh activate. Nice. All right, let's extend. So hand is here, right, our extension, but I'm gonna press in and prevent that extension. So a lot of us do leg extensions, maybe at a gym, right? This is kind of that action. So you get a lot more of this. And press in, right? You can use whichever hand you want. Just getting that strength. So you could actually do this on a leg press machine. Then we're gonna go the other way. So pull in, right? I'm gonna contract there. Nice. And we're just working all those muscles that come around the knee. Good. Oh, let's do the other side. So we'll start with our press out, press in, right? Active push, progressive repels, a little relax, push, a little relax. And you're feeling the muscles, right? The muscles are what kind of control the joint. Put that pressure into our knee. Now press in, that action of, oh, my calf just cramped. That action of pulling away, right? Yeah, my calf is like going, ooh, I'm a little weak right here, and it is wanting to cramp. Press in, and then action of pressing away. I need to work this part of my legs more. Pull in, pull away. Good. And then we'll go the other way, right? Contract, push in. We're pushing hand and leg into each other. Push in. This is my knee that gives me issues, and I'm kind of noticing why. I've got some weak musculature around there. Good. Press in. Nice. And then try to pull away, but you don't really pull away. Right? Just that activation. Nice. And then extension. Right? So we're going to try to lift and come in. If you have a partner, somebody that could be your resistance, that's perfect too, or a machine. So if you have a gym that has like the leg extension, leg press, or even those inner outer thigh type machines, right, you could put that on a place where you couldn't actually move it, because we're working on isometric here. Nice. And then we'll go underneath. So pull in, release, pull in, release. Good. Pull in, release. Nice. Oh. All right, just take a little bit of a forward fold just to release from setting here. All right, let's do a little pails and rails at our ankles. And then we'll get to our hips because everything will kind of come together. So we're gonna come up into kneeling. We're gonna curl our toes under. Now you can keep your hands on the ground. That's gonna be a little milder. You could stand up and just kind of curl your toes under, or you can use your hand as the resistance. So you could use your hand pulling back. If you're feeling pretty good here, you can always come into full seated, so more weight onto the feet. Pails and rails. Press the toes into the mat. Nice. Feel that activation, and then just relax. Press in and relax. Good. Couple of more. Just kind of your pace. You press in, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. Relax. One more time. Press in. Now here we have good feedback because the floor is our resistance. Try to lift your toes up off the floor. They should not lift, right? We're kind of at our end range. They're not going to lift, but that action of lifting the toes, release them, lift them, release them, lift them. Ah. All right. Pat your toes out a little bit. Ah. So that was the dorsiflexion, right? Our foot was in dorsiflexion. Now our foot is going to be in plantar flexion. I'm going to set on my heels. If this does not feel good, again, you can use your hand as your resistance. Otherwise, we're using the floor. You could do one leg at a time or both. This makes us plantar flex our foot. Our foot would be pointed down. And now take the tops of your toes, press them into the mat. And then a little bit of a pull up. Remember, again, I could just be using my hand, sitting in a chair. Your hand is being your resistance instead of the floor. Again, you're just kind of a little bit at your own pace, pressing in and relaxing. In and relax. Good. Now for our rails, you probably can pull your toes, your toenails off the floor a little bit, but what our rails is, we're trying to pull kind of this whole front part of our foot off the floor, right? And that part should not come off. So if we're in our in range, if I'm here, I can. Here I can lift. That's not my in range. Come to my in range, I can't lift it, right? So rails is always at wherever our in range is. And we're just trying to lift those, the kind of the top of the foot, not the toes. The toes may lift a little bit. Nice. And release. Gently come off of that. Lengthen your legs out front. Again, ankles are probably pretty sensitive. Gently make some circles, some little windshield wipers, wiggle the toes. Release. All right, we're gonna move into our hips, and then some of our pails and rails will kind of involve knee and ankles a little bit. Well, lots of different ways you can do your hips. You could be standing. We've done them from all four position. I'm just gonna have us lay on our side tonight, so we can all start. Really doesn't matter which side you start on. Your top leg is gonna be the leg that moves. You can grab a little pillow, yoga block or something right here under your head, and we're gonna work our leg in the full cars. But we're gonna start with a little kind of like we did on the other one. We're gonna flex. So we're at the hip joint. I'm not worried about the knee or the ankle. I'm gonna flex the hip joint and extend the hip joint. So flex and extend. I'm just breaking the cars down tonight. We don't always do that. Sometimes we just go straight into it. Flex, our hip joint flexes, our hip joint extends. Our hip joint also externally rotates, moves away, and internally rotates. It also does kind of some adduction and abduction as well, where it moves away from the body and it moves towards the body. So again, it flexes, it extends, it externally rotates, it internally rotates, it abducts, and it adducts. So we're going to kind of put all that together. So we're going to flex, we're going to externally rotate, we're going to kind of abduct, move it away a little bit, little internal rotation as we press back into flexion, and then adduct it back to where we started. Right, so we go the other way. We take it behind, we externally rotate as we abduct it away, we kind of internally rotate it as we bring it back into flexion and into place. And then we just go, again, both ways, right? So think about moving your hips. You imagine the femur bone coming into that round hip socket, and it is moving in all the different directions. One more time each way. Good. Nice. We'll flip over. We'll do our cars on the other side. All right. So again, we can flex and extend. Do that a couple of times. Flex and extend. And then we can internally rotate and externally rotate. And then we can abduct and adduct. So it flexes, extends, internal, external, abduct, adducts. So here we go, full cars. We come in, we rotate it open, we move it away a little bit. It gets some internal rotation as we press through extension and back to start. And then press behind, and I want to go slowly, right, so I can work as full of a range of motion as I can, because if I go quickly, I'm just going to be here. can go bigger than that. Ah. Nice. Good. One more time. Each way. And there's a lot of different kind of pails and rails that we can do in our hips, but just for the sake of time, we're gonna really work in just one particular position. And it is going to bring a little flexion into the knee, a little movement into the ankle as well. So we're gonna come into butterfly. So we're gonna pull our heels in towards us as much as we can. Right? Gently, you can use your hands or your elbows as you lean forward, kind of pressing out externally. So we're in flexion at the knee, we're in external rotation, a little bit of dorsiflexion at the ankle, right? This is why we kind of saved hips for last, because it is working our knee and our ankles. And we're just starting with a stretch, right? Butterfly stretch. Everybody loves a good butterfly stretch. Maybe not everybody, but not too bad. But then we're gonna add that pails and rails. So I can bring my hands onto my inner thighs, press in, and I'm gonna try to pull up. You're gonna feel right deep in that inner hip as you pull up, and then relax, and pull up, and relax. Good, pull up, relax, one more time, up, relax. All right, kind of pull in, you're at that in range, and now try to pull your inner thigh away from your hands, right? So if we're at our in range, we shouldn't be able to go anymore because we're at the end, but we're trying to kind of activate to pull away a little bit more. Now, somebody could probably push me away more. That's more flexibility, not mobility. Mobility's I want to be able to do it myself. So I'm trying to pull away, and you're going to feel that opening into those hips. A little bit more. All right, we're going to finish this up by coming down on to our belly. We're going to do one leg at a time here. You can do both, but full frog, pails and rails could be quite intense. So we're going to just bring one leg up at that 90, kind of 90 at the knee, 90 at the hip as much as we can. Now, if you lay flat on your belly, that's going to be a little bit easier. Coming up onto your forearm sphinx position, a little bit more rotation happens into the hip. And then if you were to come all the way up, if you've got that range of motion, that mobility, you can. I typically come onto my forearms, shoulders in front of hips, and we're going to, instead of pressing away, right, we're going to press that inner knee into the ground and lift the shin. So press in as you lift and relax. Press and relax. Good. Again, 3 to 8 times, just whatever you have. I like this one. So if I were just doing this on my own, I'd probably do this one a little bit longer. Now, press in, shin lifts. Try to lift your knee up off the floor. Again, gentle press in, leg lifts. Try to lift the knee up off the floor. Now, if I roll over here, I can do it, right? I don't want to do that. I want to stay at that in range. Lift that knee up. Release. You can bring that leg behind you. Just place your head on the floor for a moment. Let that hip go. All right, we got one more side. We're almost done. Let's bring that other side up. So you could do both of these at the same time, full frog. That's just a lot. Again, you might lay all the way down, forearms, or up. All right, we're gonna press into the knee, lift that shin, press in, right? You're trying to press that inner knee kind of into the mat. Release. Activate. Release. One hip may feel very different than the other one. You might have more range in one than the other one. So if I notice one hip is way behind the other, then I would spend more time working on the hip that needs more work. All right, so we're gonna lift, press in, and then try to lift that knee up off the ground and release. Lift that shin a little bit, press in, and then try to lift. So that's that regressive isometric contraction. Press in, lift. Nice, and release. Bring that leg back, let it rock side to side. Oh, and hopefully you feel like you worked your hips, your knees, your ankles. Thank you all so much for joining me.